You're looking for something new and exciting to do while you're in retirement, and we found something great for you to do with your community and also with your grandkids. Today, we're going to talk about geocaching, the ultimate adventure scavenger hunt. Stay tuned on the Retirement Spy. Welcome to the Retirement Spy studio, where we share experiences in a collaborative platform for those entering phase 2 of life and are ready to embrace this chapter with gusto and an attitude of carpe diem. You can find out more about us at www.theretirementspy.com or send us ideas and topics to hello@theretirementspy.com. Today, we're recording from Longview Farms, somewhere in rural Georgia outside of Atlanta, where we love being out in the peace and calm and the quiet of the countryside. Today, I'm honored to have a fellow vlogger as a guest today, Joshua Johnson, otherwise known as the geocaching vlogger. He has had a vlog for the longest time, and he just shared with me that the only week he has not done a post was when he went to the Camino de Santiago and walked for 30 days. This is the only time he's ever done it. So we stay tuned for a future episode on the Retirement Spy about walking the Camino, which is a really cool thing to do. Josh, welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on. Thanks for being patient with me as I completed my journey all the way to Santiago. You literally reached out to me just as I was beginning the walk. But I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to talk about one of my favorite things in the world, and that is geocaching. So thanks for having me here.
For listeners who have never heard of geocaching, I never had until I found you. What exactly is it?
Yeah, geocaching is a worldwide scavenger hunt game where people use GPS technology, essentially nowadays an app on your phone, and people hide basically containers. Some people call it a scavenger hunt. Some people call it treasure hunt, but there are 3 million, get this, Duncan, 3 million of these containers hidden worldwide, just waiting to be out there, to be found. And I don't know, everybody has that kid inside them. And essentially, yeah, you use this app, you find the geocache. And it's not, we'll get into this. It's not so much always about what's in the geocache. It's more about the adventure, the journey to get there, the thrill of the hunt. So essentially it's a scavenger hunt game that is used, mainly you can do it on your phone. So yeah.
What I find interesting in it, and the purpose of the Retirement Spy is to build a community to help transition into phase 2 in an unconventional way. But what we're also doing is we're highlighting people who are doing interesting things. Forget about golf for a minute. We've had a podcast on golf. We've had a podcast on, farming. We've had podcasts on lots of things. But when I found this and the idea of a scavenger hunt, what I recommend to all our clients out there and all of our listeners is when you're looking for that purpose in phase 2, and now you've got time and money that you'll find one day, Josh, what you do is you have time. Now you've got time to figure it out. Go back to your childhood. And I ask all my friends, I say, go back to your childhood. What did you really like to do? You like ride bikes, you went hiking, you went camping. I guarantee you, every one of us as kids loved the idea of a scavenger hunt.
Totally.
I mean, it's fun. So your crowd is probably different from ours. You did this, I think, when you started with your kids, but for retirees, what a great pastime. Let me ask you, how did geocaching get started and how did you get started?
Yeah, good question. So back in the year 2000, if you remember, it was May 2000, GPS technology, as far as finding a point on the earth using coordinates, was mainly left to the military. And I believe Bill Clinton at the time signed a bill to, I believe, remove selective availability. They called it switching the blue switch, essentially, which means that now civilians can use the satellites to pinpoint any area on the planet within, I mean, you can get within 10 feet. And so when that happened, there was a man in Oregon in the country named Dave Ulmer, who was essentially a GPS enthusiast. And he thought to himself, you know what? Now that this technology is available, I could hide anything and I could go have somebody find it. So he got a 5-gallon bucket, filled it with the just lots of random stuff. One of the things was George of the Jungle VHS tape. There was a can of beans in there. There was some software. He just threw a bunch of random stuff in there, took it out to the country, dug a hole, buried it. And then he went on, I don't know if you remember the old bulletin board groups. There was a GPS enthusiast bulletin board group. And he just said, I'm going to create this thing called the great worldwide stash hunt. And so he hit it, marked the coordinates. And sure enough, that was the day that selective availability was removed. And the next day, somebody on that user group went out to that space and they found that bucket. And thus, geocaching was essentially born on, it was May 3rd, 2000. So it's geocaching is like 26 years old now, which is
Wow,
unbelievable.
and back in those days, the GPS device was a Garmin, right? And we had 'em
Yeah.
in our cars, right?
Yeah, well, this was actually yes, I think there was car GPS, but, obviously those did not take off until selective availability was removed, but back then, people had these big, bulky, handheld hiking GPS units, and essentially that's how they found it, found the spot, but, again, it was very new because obviously there was not, much use for them until you could actually pinpoint something a little bit more accurate. Yeah.
So you shared with me earlier how you got started, but I'm looking at the application now. Certainly, scavenger hunts are fun, but I think it's a wonderful story how you got started in it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a child of the '80s. And, one of my favorite movies, still one of my favorite movies, and maybe some of your listeners can relate because they were probably in their, maybe their 20s or whatever, was The Goonies. Everybody lo I love The Goonies, and this idea of being able to have a treasure hunt, I was like, "Oh, that sounds great." So but it was I was a father of young kids in my 20s. I had kids when I was fairly young, and, we were always looking for fun things to do. So it was Father's Day. A friend of mine had told me about geocaching, so I simply went on Amazon and I got just a standard Garmin handheld $80 unit, and I manually plugged in the coordinates, and there was a geocache right across the street from my work. I found it, and I was like, you kinda just have this, like, eureka moment. You're like, "I drive by this spot every single day, and I never realized there was this whole world that I never knew existed, and there's these hidden things everywhere." So the moment I found that first one, I got hooked. Immediately, I went home and I said, "Kids, we're gonna go out to the park because we're gonna have a treasure hunt." So I essentially started just because I was curious, but also because it was an awesome thing to do with my young kids. At the time, my kids, I think, were, 10, 7, and 4. And yeah, so it was a great thing to do with the family.
Well, you've been in it long enough. Why would you think it would appeal to people of all ages? Kids is easy, right? But I think this is universally applicable
Yeah.
about why everybody would love this.
Yeah, I really believe no matter how old you are, you alluded to it. There is a kid at heart. There's a curiosity. It is a perfect mix of tech and nature. So, for example, one of the most popular places on earth for geocaching per capita is Germany. The Germans love geocaching
With
because it
beer.
yeah, exactly. Because it's this nice mix of tech and nature, which is really neat. So, I think it just appeals like my kids kinda like it's a kind of a positive thing to do with tech instead of, like, being inside on a phone or video games. So this like the tech part of it for a young person is kind of like the draw, but then also like just study after study about getting out in nature and exploring and also using your mind because once you get to the place, it's not always easy to find. Sometimes there's different types of caches that are like puzzle caches, or there's kinds that are like almost like puzzle boxes. You see them, you see it, it's out in the open, but you have to figure out how to get it out or get it open. So there's so many aspects of it. It's creative. People like to hide them, so they try to think of really creative ways to hide them. It's like a tour guide. So you're in a new city or a new place. Geocaches are everywhere. Lots of times people hide geocaches in places where they want to show off or bring people. So when I'm in a new city, it's like a tour guide for me. I'm like, oh, it's easy. I'm going to find all the best places because all the great geocaches are hidden there. So I could go on, but there's a broad appeal across ages and backgrounds, but ultimately it's the thrill of the hunt. It's a lot of fun.
I think it's like being a kid again.
Yeah.
Walk us through what happens in a typical geocaching adventure.
Yeah. So nowadays, the barrier to get into geocaching is so much lower. Like back in the day, I told you I had to have a handheld GPS. Now with geocaching really took off and like when the iPhone came out because they established an app. So simply, the first thing is like, what do you need? You need your smartphone, you need a pen, and you need a sense of adventure. That's all you really need to start. And depending where you go, because they could be urban, they could be in the woods, they could be suburban, they could be almost anywhere in a public space. But essentially, what it would look like is like you pull up the app. the app will you'll see a map, and there'll be all these little boxes on there, and you tap on one of those boxes, there'll be a little bit of information about it, and you simply click on navigate to, and either it'll be a compass, you can have a compass and you just follow the arrow, or you can, if you're a little bit savvy with a map, you can be like, oh, I know that park, I can tell it's over there, and you just simply walk there or drive there depending on how far away it is. And once you get there, once you get to the within 10 to 20 feet, you put down your phone, you look around, and you think to yourself, if I was to hide something somewhere, where would I hide it? And it takes a while to like develop it, because you almost have to develop like these geo senses. I remember the first time I went out, I was like, I didn't even know what I was looking for, and you look around, and sure enough, it could be hidden in lots of different ways. Sometimes they're hidden in plain sight. Sometimes they're under a tree. Sometimes they're very big. Sometimes they're tiny, tiny small. And once you find it, you get this eureka moment. And the one rule with geocaching is that you have to sign the logbook, right? So every geocache has some sort of piece of paper in it. And then, so you open up the geocache, you sign the logbook. Everybody has like a geocaching name that you use when you sign up for your account. And then if it's larger, you can go through what is called the swag, which is an acronym for stuff we all get. And the rule with geocaching, and it's really important. I taught this to my kids very early, because you find it's stuff like buttons and keychains and trinkets, stuff like that. But if you find something in there, if you want to take something out of the geocache, you have to return something of equal or greater value, because the next person has to have a good experience too. Especially when you take kids and you're like, we're going on a treasure hunt. It's so sad if you open it up and it's empty. The treasure box is empty, right? So teaching the kids like, okay, we're going to give back. If you're going to take something, you're going to. And so our kids were so cute. They had their little bags filled with like little McDonald's toys that they were ready to trade, and then once you're done with it, you hide it back exactly how you found it, so then the next person can find it. Because a lot of people think, oh, you get to keep it. Well, no, it's there for the community. Um, and then
Does somebody own a geocache? In other words,
yes,
I'm gonna create a geocache in my farm out here that
yes,
somebody can find, and I'll check on every month or 2 because
yeah,
I guess part of the joy is how many people have been there, i.e. the
yeah,
log, you're proud. It's kinda like having a podcast. You're like, "Oh, 10 people watch me a day versus 1,000. I feel
yeah,
depressed or I'm happy." But you're maintaining it, and I imagine you
yeah,
go out there because somebody might not replace trinkets or you might wanna
yeah.
do something different.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the people that hide the geocaches are other geocachers. And there are people that's really the joy. Like you speak of retired people, like that's really like it gives them a sense of purpose, and that they're bringing joy to other people, and they have time to create some really elaborate, like really interesting, beautiful puzzles or puzzle boxes, and so, yeah, other people hide them, and then if you hide one, yeah, you're responsible for it. You're making sure that the logbook's not wet, there's water, that it's not infested with bugs, or, but yeah, so you're in charge of maintaining it. And the cool thing about it is once you find the geocache, yes, you sign the physical logbook, but then on the app, you log it. You log it on the phone, and you share your experience, your adventure, and then the owner of that gets that. It's a little, I think a little dopamine hit. It's like, I put something out into the world to bring people joy or to bring a smile on people's faces, and people, are enjoying it. And so the people every time one of my geocaches is found, I get an email on my phone, which is actually pretty rewarding and really neat, especially if I put a lot of time and effort into making the experience great.
I'm thinking about my retired crowd here. This is wonderful fun for the grandkids. It's wonderful fun for the retirement community. I mean, let's get some margaritas and let's do a geocache Thursday at 5
Yeah.
o'clock. Come on, let's
Yeah.
go do that.
Yeah.
So, is geoca and I think I already know the answer, but let me ask you, is geocaching more of a technology hobby? Is it more of an outdoor hobby, a treasure hunt? Um, who
Hmm.
gets into this, and what reasons are they doing it for?
Yeah. I think there's lots of different reasons people are getting into it. It is an outdoor adventure game. There are some exceptions to the rules. There are some geocaches out there that have been grandfathered where like there's one in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and speaking of in a spy restaurant called the Safe House, and it's kind of a speakeasy sort of thing, and you have to have the secret password or code to get in. And the geocache is literally, you can see it. It's hidden behind the bar. You have to ask the bartender for it. So there are some, that's kind of a rare thing. But mostly it is outside. It's either in the forest, or again, it could be a more urban environment where you have to be a little bit more sneaky or stealthy to find it.
are
but it's
cache
mainly yeah, go ahead.
are caches categorized by either levels of difficulty or
Yes.
they're different things? Like, say, I wanna go look for a cache, and I don't know what a cache is. It's a tube, it's a box, it's
Yes.
something. So when you're saying, "Okay, I'm gonna do my cache today, I don't wanna walk more than a mile. I
Yes.
want it to be urban, suburban." Um, I'm just curious. Once again, I
Yeah.
know nothing about this, but I'm fascinated with it.
Yeah. Great question. So every geocache has a terrain rating and a difficulty rating. The terrain rating is essentially rating how difficult is it to get there, to get to the geocache. So a one terrain, for example, would be wheelchair accessible, that somebody could actually get it from a wheelchair. A five, on the other hand, which is the highest, that would mean you need special equipment, which means you need a boat, you need climbing equipment, you need to rappel. I've rappelled off of cliffs. So it's crazy because it could be an extreme sport and it could be just really, fairly simple to get to, right? So that's a terrain rating, but also there's a 5 scale difficulty rating, meaning one, it's very going to be very easy to find. Five, extremely difficult. It could be a fake stick in the
Uh,
woods it could be a fake bolt that just hidden in plain sight. So they can be extremely difficult or extremely easy. And so every single geocache has that terrain rating. So you can look at that and go, okay, it's a 2 terrain, which means I'm walking through some grass, and it's a 2 difficulty. That would probably be average. Most geocaches would be like a 2-2. So, and then there's attributes. So it could tell you, oh, this is a long hike. This is a short hike. This is a park and grab. Like you could literally pull up and get out of your car and walk a few steps. So the thing that's really great about geocaching is, yeah, just like how diverse each experience could be. And so if you're looking at the app, it's designed, what you're about to get into. If that
I'm
answers your
I'm
question.
already thinking about different applications, and there are no in my opinion, there are no new ideas in the world. It's just who decides to put the idea out there. But I'm
Exactly.
thinking about a good friend of mine named Duncan Van Pelt. He will love this. Van Pelt, you will love this. The way he would think about this is, hey, what can we do to make this an exertion or a marathon? In other words, are there geocache marathons where, like, okay, we're going to have a
Yeah.
competition today, and based on these different ratings of level of difficulty,
Yeah.
the first person who gets to 200 points within X period of time, are there geocache marathons?
That's a great question because yes, there are essentially races. So there's an event that happens every year. I just competed in it in Iowa. It moves around. It's called the Midwest Open Geocaching Adventure. And basically it's exactly what you described. It's 20 geocaches in a forest preserve. You have 2 hours and whoever can find the most in the shortest amount of time. There's a little, you have to go to it. And there's a little punch to prove you were there. And
Yeah.
it's literally, we're literally running. It's a race. It's a race. So that's very unique because for the most part, geocaching is not competitive, but that is an example where, yeah, there is that competition sort of event. And so fun fact, the Midwest Open Geocaching Adventure, I competed, I'm in my late 40s and it's a 4-person competition. So that way it's like, okay, there's 40 geocaches. There's 4 of us. We plan, strategize, divide and conquer. Go. We all split up. You take this many, you take this side, you go to the north, and then whoever gets them all gets back soonest. So I've done this before, but I'm a little competitive and I wanted to win because I've won it before in the 4-person competition. So sure enough, who do I find? I walk up to the event. I wasn't going to compete. 3 20-year-olds, all marathon runners, come up to me. They're like, "Hey, Josh," and they know me because of my YouTube channel. "Hey, Josh, would you be on our 4-person team?" I was like, they're like, "We won last year." I was like, "You won last year? I'm in. Just give me the shortest route. I'll do it." And we did it, and I won. Well, we won together. So
When I was younger, I ran a little bit, and there was a group, and it still exists. It's international. It's called the Hashtown Harriers. And you'd have a rabbit, and he has flour. And literally, if you're the rabbit that day, you're marking a course with flour
oh,
along a trail. And I think their nomiker is that they are a drinking club with a running problem. Because after, and let's just say it's a 2 or 3 mile run, but they go
yeah,
through various areas, through swamps and everything else. And at the end, there's a keg of beer or whatever, and they have different
awesome.
clubs. And but this is somewhat akin to geocaching in that it's
Yeah,
exertion and there's
yeah.
a prize at the end, so to speak.
Yeah. I don't wanna scare your listeners, though. That's very what I described to you is very unique. Geocaching can be very, relaxed, not running, but there are real health benefits to obviously getting outside and walking. A lot of people call geocaching, like, kinda hiking with a purpose.
Yes.
People, like, they go out and they hike, but it's like, "Oh, I have, like, something to a destination or a goal, something to get to," and that's really, I think even anybody, that's motivating to like get outside, to get some exercise.
So I
Um,
want to start with geocaching today. I've got my
mhm.
smartphone device.
Yep.
What am I doing? Am I going to my favorite provider and downloading? I imagine there's more than one
Yeah.
geocache app,
Yes.
but I want to get started today. Walk me through it.
Yeah, so there is an official geocaching app. So geocaching, there's a little bit of a monopoly on geocaching. Geocaching.com. That's where you want to go. That's the main listing site. They're actually based in Seattle, Washington. They have a headquarters. You can go there, you can tour it. It's kind of like visiting Mecca. Uh,
Imagine
but
there's a lot of geocaching within geocaching headquarters. It's like,
yeah, yeah, it's a really I mean, imagine having working for a company where you're running a game. You can imagine the kind of work environment that is. It's
I
just like
imagine
it's
it's
a very
fun.
fun place to be, and it's in the I don't know if you've ever been to Seattle, Washington, but it's in the Fremont district, which is really a unique, beautiful, quirky sort of, neighborhood. Anyway, that's a side note. So, to get started, I would recommend anyone yes, there are many geocaching apps, but start with the OG, start with the official app, and right on that official app, you can sign up for an official account. You can sign up for a free account. And the cool thing is about a lot of these apps that really know what they're doing, once you log into that app, it really does a great job teaching you how to geocache and find your first couple finds. Like it'll pick out a geocache close to you that would be maybe a little bit on the easier side because obviously they want people to have success on their first first go at it. So essentially, yeah, you download it. Make sure you have a pen. It's gonna probably pull up a closer, easier geocache, and the app's really intuitive. I mean, you either follow the arrow or again, like I said, just kind of follow the map. And
I'm looking at this, and we're our audience are people in retirement or headed to retirement.
mhm,
In my first episode, I talk about the 8 F's of retirement, of successful retirement, and one of the things that we lose in retirement is structure and
yeah,
purpose, and you lose friendship groups. I would
yeah,
imagine this is a community that has a tremendous friendship group. In other words, I don't
yes,
know if they're geocaching clubs that get together that are either creators of geocaches or they're clubs designed to say, hey, we get together on Thursdays for a happy hour and we do a geocache. And today we're going to meet on the east side of Atlanta and Bob's running it today. Tell me
yeah,
how the for a retiree, how this now comes together with solving some of the problems of structure, purpose, and friendship groups.
yeah, for sure. What you described, it's all of the above. So within the geocaching universe, you can even see it on the map. There'll be pins, and the green pins will be the geocaches. But then every once in a while you'll see like red pins. And you're like, what are the red pins? You click on it, geocaching events that are happening all the time. So you essentially, and the geocaching event is a geocache. Essentially, you can log it, and they have different. Each event has different purposes. It could be easy as just hanging out at a brewery and just hanging out with people, or it could be as elaborate as like you know going out on an adventure or exploring a new place or meeting together with other people that want to create geocaches together, stuff like that. But also, especially I think in the retirement community, Facebook is your friend here because if you search your city or your state and geocaching, almost every city and state, major city and state has a geocaching association. And a lot of these associations are doing regular meetups. And you're right. It's exactly, Duncan, how you described. We're meeting at this park tonight at 6. We're going to geocache together. Afterwards, we're going to this brewery. We're going to have beers and we're going to have some drinks together and just chat. And let me just say, like, I've been in this community for 18 years. Some of the kindest, most generous, most sweet people I know have been geocachers. It's a very welcoming community. And it is a highly, it's more of a retirement crowd. So anybody about to enter retirement or in retirement, I think they're going to feel pretty welcome with a group of people that are not completely, but mostly in their stage of life. So
I
yeah,
I look at there as in retirement, we also want to have intellectual stimulation. I'm thinking I'm laughing. I get a lot of nasty comments when I say this, but our age group or technology challenge, when you said, hey,
yeah,
Facebook is your friend, I'm like, okay, I'm willing to bet that probably half of our crowd aren't necessarily the most tech savvy and Facebook savvy people in the world. But my point is,
mm,
how difficult can you make a geocache? In other words, it's a location, but it's a box in a box, it's a fake stick. And are
yeah.
there hints on the web device that says, okay, I'm having a hard time finding this? can you click for a hint to where to go or
Yes.
their codes, or how difficult can you make a geocache to keep stimulating the mind?
Yeah. So there are lots of different types of geocaches. I think that's important to know. So, for example, there's a traditional cache. So what I've been describing to you is a traditional cache. You go, you find a box. Pretty simple. But there are geocaches called mystery caches or puzzle caches. So you're literally, so I live in Minnesota. We have brutal winters. And I just know so many retired folks that are during the winter when it's cold, they're going through geocache pages and there's like online puzzles to figure out the coordinates. And they will work on those all winter and then spring comes around and then they'll go find those geocaches. So and I, not everybody's a puzzle person. So the cool thing about geocaching is that attached to every single one of those geocaches is a owner, is a person that has created that puzzle. So you can literally click on their name in the app. And if you're struggling or you need a hint, you can just, there's a messaging system within the app. You can just be like, hey, I'm new to geocache, or can you nudge me in the right direction? And the people that hide geocaches, yes, they can be difficult, but ultimately they want their geocaches to be found, right? So we have a really generous community and just like helping people, if they're struggling, if there's a tech issue. I'll just tell you right now, I started when I was pretty tech savvy. I started in my mid-20s and my first couple geocaches, I was struggling. They were like difficult. Like the terrain was easy, but they were difficult. Like I'm talking about, like mentioned fake stick. The second geocache I found was a fake stick. And I went back and forth. I looked for that thing 3 different times. I was like, I cannot find this thing. This thing must not be here. So on the geocache app, you can literally log did not find. You can like sad face. If you find it, happy face, sad face. And this guy that owns it, he reached out to me. He's like, okay. He's like,
Hint, 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 hint.
yeah, hint, hint. But he was like, he was about to enter retirement. He's like my neighbor now. I didn't even know him. I mean, he lives down the street from me. And he's like, hey, would you like to meet up? And I can just kind of show you. So essentially, I had like a mentor, a geocaching mentor when I started. I'm convinced that I would not be geocaching today. I wouldn't have a YouTube channel. I would not have all the opportunities of traveling the world and finding geocaches had it not been for that guy who reached out to me and said, "Hey, this guy's struggling," and he helped me. And he was essentially mentoring me through because yeah, there was a little bit of a learning curve there.
I would see in Minnesota, and we're from the South, we never see snow, we don't see ice, but if I was in Minnesota, I'd be like hiding my geocache in a frozen lake, under snow, and it's like, you'd have to get in a snowmobile to go over where my
Hmm.
geocache is,
Hmm.
but to your point, snowmobile is just what everybody has up in Minnesota in the wintertime, and you're always
Yeah.
gonna have an ice pick with you wherever you go because that's
Yeah.
just the way it is in Minnesota.
Yeah.
In the South,
Yeah.
we'd be like, "We don't even know what a snowmobile is,
Yeah.
and an ice pick." But I'd have more fun with that. What I love about this is I'm seeing 2 sides of the equation here. One side is, okay, I'm the alpha, so to speak. I wanna be the one that creates that geocache because
Yeah.
it's what my DNA is, and then there's a
Yeah.
whole different category of people who are like, "Look, that's not my jam.
Right.
I just
Right.
wanna go find the stuff and have
Yep.
fun finding it," and then you've got the creative ones who are like, "Okay, we're gonna make a marathon out of this, and I'm gonna get everybody we know, and we're gonna make it real competitive," and
Yeah.
there's so many different ways to apply this for the introvert or the extrovert
Yeah.
that makes it
Exactly.
so appropriate.
Yeah, it is really interesting. There's such a diversity in types of personalities because you're right. There are people that just want to be out in the woods by themselves, right, and find alone. But then there's other people that are just like, oh, I never go geocaching alone. I always do it with somebody else. I love going to the events. So yeah, and the right brain people, left brain people. You have the kind of analytical math brains that are creating some of the puzzles and stuff like that. But then you have other people that are really creative that they're like they create a geocache that tells a story. Like like I found one years ago where you get to the geocache and it's a literal treasure map of like a and you open it up and it's like a scroll and you have no more information. You don't have any more coordinates. You just like it's just like X marks the spot and you're trying to figure it, So and it tells about it was hidden by a pirate and like so it's like there's a creative side, but then there's also the technical side of it. So it really just has something for everybody, no matter how you're wired.
Tell me about the culture of geocachers. When I think about this, and it seems like it's so diverse. It could be a Dungeons and Dragons crowd. It can be,
Yeah,
and I say this, you're referencing. Well, it seems like I see a lot of older retired people, Duncan, who are in this crowd. But
yeah.
and I know it's not. I don't want to stereotype anything, but
Oh,
anybody in retirement wants to get into something new. The last thing we would do is go around a group of 20-year-olds that they can't relate to. Tell me about the diversity, the demographics.
Yeah.
Tell me about the culture of the crowd.
Yeah, the culture of the crowd. I think, again, I don't wanna make I mean, I think in anything there's gonna be like the typical, I think the nature of the crowd mostly. So you have people that are casual players.
Mhm.
So, like, the casual players are like, "Hey, let's give this a try," or it's a fun thing to do with the family, fun thing to do with the kids, but it's just like another thing to try, right? And then you have like the diehards. And so the diehards are mostly retired people that have time and money and that are able to, because they call them mega events. So these are geocaching events with 500 more people. And then there's also events called giga events with 5,000 or more people. And the crowd you see there. So if I'm thinking a typical, it's people in their 60s mainly. They're a lot of them are doing van life stuff. Every day is an adventure. Every day is a different location. And I have friends that they just travel around the country in their van, going from geocache to geocaching event and everything in between. And the crowd is, yeah, I think more. It's a creative group, but I think it's. I know so many like retired computer programmers.
Of
you know,
course,
I
of
just
course.
so many, so many. I think that's naturally kind of uh, who it kind of draws. But then I've the executive producer of the television show Dirty Jobs. He's a
Yeah.
geocacher.
Is he really?
The
Oh, cool.
Yeah, one of my great geocaching friends, this guy named Doug McRae. He's the inventor of Miss Pac-Man. He is one of the most diehard geocachers I know. Travels the world, has been to more countries geocaching than anybody in the hobby. So it's just like, I'll just say this, just really everybody's very interesting. Like, it's a very interesting crowd with interesting backgrounds. Especially Miss Pac-Man. I mean, how cool is it to be hanging? I was hanging out. I traveled 2 weeks with the inventor of Miss Pac-Man. My
Wacka,
little
wacka, wacka, wacka,
Yeah,
wacka,
yeah.
wacka, wacka.
My little 80s nerdy geeking out was just awesome. It was awesome to hang out with him. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I'm so glad that this is one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you, because I was like, oh God, this is such a great thing for retired folks, because I see it. I see, like, I'll tell you just one story. There's one man in our community that just had been through. He just recently retired. He'd just been through some really tough stuff in his life, and I believe like his son passed away via suicide. He was really, really struggling, and he could have really just gone in his shell and been lonely and health deteriorating. But then he found the geocaching community. He found this retired group that goes out once a week in the mornings together and finds geocaches together. And I see him at almost every event, and his life is different and changed because of this thing. And it's not necessarily the geocaching, but just like the community has embraced him and they think of
Everybody's
him, yeah,
yeah,
celebrate his birthday. He doesn't have any family around. Like, it's really beautiful.
everybody's looking for community, and it may
Yeah.
be in retirement. It's a golfing community. It can be
Yeah.
mahjong has gotten to be so popular down here with the gals.
Oh, wow.
You're looking for a community of connectivity around things you want to do. I'm so excited about this group. I'm really curious about this. There are conventions for everything. Are there geocache conventions where people
Yeah.
get together to
Yes.
share best practices of
Yes.
geocaching or different ideas?
Yes. It's exactly what I was describing. The mega event. So that would be 500 or more people, which is a large event. But it's pretty rare to have a gig event. We had one 2 years ago in West Virginia, in Morgantown, West Virginia, there were like, I think 7,000 geocachers there. And that's like a convention. So the geocaching world has an ecosystem of things. So podcasters, vloggers, they have vendors, so people that sell geocaching supplies online, in person, and then at these conventions or mega events, you have speakers. So the last one, I have a podcast as well, a shameless plug. It's called Treasures of Our Town. It's a travel podcast all about the places geocaching brings you. So that's kind of our thing. It's like geocaching brings you to the coolest places. So I feature different locations around the U.S. that maybe people don't always think about. But anyway, like we were a guest at this Giga event, and we were on stage and we did our podcast live. But then there's people that get up and do seminars and different ways to hide things, and we have a review process, and then people from geocaching.com come, and the president's there of geocaching. So yeah, it's like a geocaching con. It is a thing, and they're happening all over the world. Like I said, very popular in Germany.
This is I
Czechoslovakia.
see
Yeah.
so many I see so many opportunities here. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about grandkids and fun
Oh,
things to
yeah.
do because talk about being the coolest grandparent there is and stuff saying, "Well, let's go to the
I
amusement
know.
park today," or "Let's go to the park. We're going geocache day." You get
I
to be the
know.
coolest grandparent there is. Hey, question, you started this with your kids. Now,
Yeah.
is it have they outgrown it? And so when you get together for the holidays, I'm assuming maybe you're an empty nester, you
Yeah.
go, "All right, we're going to
Yeah.
geocache." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Dad, we don't want to geocache anymore." Do they outgrow it or do they still have your kids kept a passion for it?
It depends on the kid. I think it depends on the kids because I see this story a lot. I think the sweet spot for kids with geocaching is probably 5 to 11.
Mm.
I mean, just like anything, right? So 5 to 11. Sweet spot, 8, like 8, 8, 7, 8.
'Cause they're dying for that independence.
Oh,
They
yeah.
still like the
Yeah.
adventure, and they got
Yeah.
just enough freedom from mom and dad that they can make
Yeah.
this a hobby, and it's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and grandpa puts the phone in the kid's hand and say, "You guide us there." They like to have that. So that's sort of the sweet spot. I do notice, and not everybody. I've met some teenagers that really are into it. I've met teenagers that have created in their junior high and high schools geocaching clubs. So they're out there. But let's be honest, 12 years old,
Yeah.
priorities shift.
Yeah.
Girls, boys, sports, all this stuff. But
Everything
here,
that distracts you.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But my kids they're all adults now. My youngest is 19. They have great memories. They have great nostalgia around it. I've instilled with them the importance of getting outside. Also, the important with the vlogging for me, with the video creating of creativity, and so all my kids are storytellers. They're all video creators. My son has a super viral Instagram account right now where he goes into restaurants and he shouts their slogan. So he'll go into McDonald's and just randomly go, "I'm loving it," and he's gone super viral. He has Applebee's. He has everybody reaching out. It's crazy. He had to quit his job so he could go into restaurants and yell things. He's trying to get on a Super Bowl commercial. Sorry, that was a rabbit trail, but they've got this bug in me of like kind of documenting or storytelling, right? So to answer your question, when they come home, they are so like as adults now. It's kind of like they say they always come back, right? As adults now, they have nostalgia around it and they want to, "Dad, let's go geocaching. Let's go do something." They want to spend time because they miss
Hey,
miss me.
question. So back to retirement. Retirees want to travel more, and this is
Yeah.
one of the things that they're driven by. And you mentioned it. Shameless plug back to you again. How can geocaching enhance travel experiences?
It does. First of all, another thing is like geocaching is fairly other than getting there, like as we're recording this, gas prices are not the greatest right now, right? So that's part of it. But in general, geocaching is a pretty affordable because you go to a new city or a new place and you could buy the tour. You could get on a tour and you could sit with the expert. But geocaching is a built-in guided tour. So you go to a significant location on the cache page on the phone. It'll have information about the spot. Sometimes you have to answer some questions. You have to answer some questions about the spot to figure out the next stage. So they're like a multi sort of adventure. So many times I've gone to a new city and I've learned about the city. I've experienced the city. I've been taken to the best spots of the city because the person that lives there, and by the way, you can only hide geocaches within where you live because you have to maintain it. The person that lives there that hid that geocache is proud of that spot, are proud of that location. And like, if somebody visits my town, this is the place I want to bring them. So this is where I'm going to hide the geocache. So it is a built-in free, I'm in quotes because you have to, gas and all that, free tour guide. And it can really enhance your experience and enhance your knowledge of the location where you're at.
Geo tours. I mean, that's
Yeah.
brilliant because people are always looking for something unique. And geo tours is a great idea. Help me with some famous geocaching destinations that our retirees should consider for their bucket list.
That's so tough because there's geocaches everywhere, but there are some really there's some areas that have some really great ones. It's funny, Duncan, that you mentioned geotours
Yeah.
because that is a side not side brand. It is a side brand of geocaching.com. So geocaching.com does reach out to communities and say, "Hey, we have some geocachers in your area. We would like to create a tour of your city and we're going to hide geocaches." And here's the thing. If the person comes there and finds all the geocaches in that city, they'll get a very special collectible challenge coin. and geocachers collect these challenge coins. So geocachers will decide to go to a particular city because they want that coin, and if they complete it on your digital badge on your app, you get a badge that I completed Norfolk, Nebraska, and it's interesting because it often targets like not the big major cities that everybody knows about. It's like these smaller communities that are just like hidden gems. So yeah, to answer your question, geez, Rome, Georgia. Speaking of Georgia, Rome, Georgia
Yeah.
is a destination for geocaching. They've had for years they had a incredible event there. Rome, Georgia is a big movie location, so it's where the movie Stranger Things was filmed, or the show Stranger Things was filmed. Lots of other things were filmed there. It's a beautiful community, smaller, beautiful downtown, but there's great geocaches there and great geocaches there. So Georgia, that's for you, Duncan. Rome, Georgia. That's a great
Love it.
one.
That's a great
Um,
idea.
yeah, I visited Lompoc, California. So this is the area where they're doing a lot of the rockets that are going off. So there's a tour there, and that's deep in not deep. It's in wine country. So it's kind of this mix of you're experiencing wine country, but you're also experiencing some of the sights and technology of all these new rockets that are going up. Let's see. Houston, Texas has a geo tour that's really amazing. They're everywhere. It's really hard to pinpoint. But there's also little communities that nobody has heard of. So I'm going to say there's this one place called Gilby, North Dakota. Duncan, literally population maybe 80 people. But there's a guy there that has created, it's called the Disneyland of geocaches, where it's literally
North Dakota.
North Dakota. It's right outside of Grand Forks, so that's north of Fargo. It's way up there, but in the middle of nowhere. It's the Disneyland of geocaches, and it's just like the most creative things you've ever heard of. I'll give you an example. You're in the middle of the country. You walk up to the geocache. You know this at the carnival, those strongman games.
Yeah.
You take the mallet. You show up, and you're literally there's the full size strongman game, and you take the mallet, you hit it, and the geocache pops out of the top of it as it rings a bell. So that's that kind of stuff. And it's about 80 of them out in the middle of nowhere. Gilby, North Dakota. Yeah. I made a geocaching a short film because get this, you believe it, there's a geocaching film festival. That's
Oh,
so
where? I mean, I've done the Sundance Festival.
yeah, no, it's worldwide. So people submit videos, and then it becomes like there's geocaching events all over the world, like 700 geocaching, and they show the real. So it's not just at one location; it's worldwide. Other geocachers watch it. But anyway, I submitted my video. My video was on. You remember the old movie Field of Dreams, right?
Yeah.
So this guy that in Gilby, North Dakota, that builds these, they're so creative. And I asked him one day, I was like, how do you come up with all these amazing ideas? And he goes, Josh, you know, I don't know if you're gonna believe me, but I actually dream them. I wake up in the middle of the night and I have a notepad, and I write down the ideas that come to me in my sleep. And then I go out to my shop and I build them. And I was
Build
like, oh
it
my
and
gosh.
they will come.
Yes, exactly.
Remember the Field of Dreams of it, build it and they will come.
Yes. So I made a short film of basically that idea of like he dreams them, he gets it, he builds them, he waits, and all of a sudden a ghost geocacher comes out of the shelter belt. And then all of a sudden, and it's so funny, Duncan, because that's a true story. Like people come to this small town of nothing because he created this Disneyland of geocaching. Anyway,
What a great story. I've been to South Dakota. I've never been to North Dakota, and I went to South Dakota for a purpose. Unfortunately, it was not geocaching. Hey, question.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. We'll wrap it up with a few more questions. But what are the common mistakes new beginners to geocaching should avoid?
They need to be prepared. You brought this up earlier. They need to prepare for what they're about to encounter, right? So if people aren't paying attention, they could click on a geocache and it ends up being like a 5-mile hike up, maybe bushwhacking through the woods, and they don't have the right pants on, and they get poison ivy, and they
Look at the app, understand the difficulty.
Understand what you're about to get into, and make sure you're prepared. And all the basic safety things of, if you're going out to the woods for any amount of time, make sure you have water, sunscreen, bug spray, so just be prepared for what you're about to encounter. Really, some people don't read. Every geocache has information. You can read what you're about to encounter. Some people just don't take the time. They get so excited, like, oh, let's go find it. And then they're not prepared. And then they find out there in a precarious situation. I remember this is sad, Duncan. Another story. First time I took my kids out, I was so excited. I didn't do that. And I'm out in this forest preserve area and I'm on trail, and then, the geocache arrow is pointing into the woods. And so, like, okay, kids, we got to go into, and I'm bushwhacking a
You got the
long time
machete.
with little kids. And the kids are like, what are we doing? And sure enough, I get to it. And then once I get to it, I realize the trail is right next to where
You
I didn't need to bushwhack. Like, practically speaking, stay on the trail for as long as you need to.
Clearly,
Um,
your wife wasn't there to help.
no, she was not there. So
And you heard about it when you came home.
yeah,
"Hey, Dad, Mom, I got poison
yeah,
ivy. Dad went off
yeah, I
bushwhacking."
know. Yeah, I got thorns and I'm cut up, and so yeah, I know what you're getting into. Yeah, and especially if you take kids. So if there's grandparents listening and you take your grandkids with you, I would really make sure that you make sure the kids have a good experience, because that first experience will define what they think it is. So, Duncan, I literally, if I take kids geocaching for the first time, because families ask me, like, we want to do it, but will you take us? So I will pre-find the geocaches, and I will put some stuff in it that I know that the kids would like. And then I'll take them, they'll find it, they'll open it up, and it's, oh my gosh, it's whatever, some action figure or something. And then they're like, this is amazing. So that first experience with kids has to be good if you want them to continue to go with you.
I was going to ask you a final question, but I think that's it. If you're going to
You
do
bet.
this, and if it's a grandkid thing, do the trail ahead of time so that you
Yeah,
don't have failed expectations, because you're
exactly.
creating etched memories for your
Totally.
family, and you want to make sure
Totally.
it goes over right. So that's brilliant. All right, here's an
Yeah.
action figure. Here's a sweet tart. Here's whatever you put into a
Yeah.
geocache, and
Yeah.
do it ahead of time. And then you empower the kids to say, okay, this is your venture. Here's the phone. Go
Yeah.
for it. You got to find this. Grandpa's not going to
Exactly.
help you with this.
Exactly. Yeah,
Oh my
the
gosh.
the the kids feel so much more empowered if they feel like they're guiding the adventure, that it's not like, "I'm just following grandpa in the woods." It's gotta be they gotta be a part of it. Give them the phone.
And final question, is there you mentioned the sweet spot somewhere around between 5 to 10 years old. Can you be too young? Taking a 2 or 3-year-old is probably not a good idea. Um,
I think it's okay. Again, just know what you're getting into. Like, right, the 2-year-old, 3-year-old is not gonna be appreciating the beautiful hike, right? They're excited about finding the geocache. So again, pre-find it, put something that they think would be really cool, and then once they're there, you could do a little warmer, colder game. You're getting warmer, you're getting cold, and then the look on their face when they find it, even at 2 or 3 years old, is really it's priceless. Yeah, it's
that's so
priceless. Like,
cool.
I did it. I found it. So, yeah, younger is finer, but fine. Just make sure, again, you know what you're getting into, and make it a great experience for them.
Josh, I want to promote you for our audience listening today as we wrap up today. Where can they find your vlog so they can follow you and learn more about geocaching and have you a part of their daily lives?
Yes. So I'm the geocaching vlogger on all platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And if they want to just find my YouTube channel, it's just geocachingvlogger.com. And if you go there, that'll take you right to my YouTube channel. And I also have like I said, I have a podcast called Treasures of Our Town. That's anywhere you find podcasts. And again, that's a little bit it's about geocaching, but it's more travel focused. And we focus mainly on the US, of towns that maybe people don't talk about so much, that are fun places that we have discovered before because of geocaching. And one more thing, Duncan, I created a geocaching comic book
Look
called The
at you.
Greatest Treasure, which this can be found on Amazon. And basically, it's for 1 to 101. And basically, it's a kind of a creative way to introduce new people to geocaching. It's a great way to introduce young people or grandchildren to it, because you could read this through it, and then you can tell them, by the way, what Joshua did in this comic book, we can actually do it. It's a real thing. We can do it together. So The Greatest Treasure, it can be found on Amazon.
This is brilliant for our retirement audience here. This is wonderful. Josh, thank you so much. I think we're going to have you on the program in the future because you keep coming up with new and creative ideas. Thank you so
Okay.
much for being on the Retirement Spy, and we hope to see you again soon.
Duncan, thank you so much for having me. I always love talking about this great hobby we have, geocaching. Appreciate it.
Take care.